Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Oh Just Pets podcast. I am Maria Lee Driver. I'm the CEO of Fresh Meat Pets, and I have Dr. Andrea Dunnings, who is the CEO of East Atlantic Animal Clinic. And we are here to tell you every time we get on our podcast the ins and outs of how to take care of our pets. And her information is so powerful. I'm a brand new pet owner, so I need her advice. I need everything that she can advise me. And that's why my pets actually go to her clinic. And I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself because I am just a pet parent and I am also the CEO of Fresh Meat Pets, but I have a product. But she knows your pet inside and out, literally. Dr. Andrea Dunnings.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Dunnings, and I'm the owner of East Atlanta Animal Clinic, and I've been practicing veterinary medicine for, I hate to say it, but about 30 years now. And we are primarily a dog and cat general practice, meaning we don't do any exotics or birds or large animals or anything like that. But if you have a dog or you have a cat, we can take care of your pet and take care of your any questions that you might have about your pet as well. But thanks for having me today, Maria. This has been a fun little journey. So I'm excited to get this episode started because we're going to talk about some holidays, right?
Yes. Oh my goodness. As a brand new pet owner, I'm so new. My music, I only had them for a year. And then we just had an addition, which is Score, and he's 6 months. And I'm learning so many things. Oh my goodness. Every day it's like, who knew? They tell you something every day.
Oh
Who
boy.
knew, right? So having you on, I'm pretty sure when I decided to do this podcast, it was important to me because there's so many people who get animals and especially pets, and they're so cute and they're so furry, and they're like, oh my God, they're so pretty. And you watch them walk and you hear them bark, or a cat. But in reality, the cuteness is nothing compared to how to take care of them. Isn't that correct?
That's true. That is very true. You have to remember that dogs and cats are, you know, living creatures just like we are, just like human babies are. And especially when you get them at a very young age, they are dependent upon you, just like, a baby is dependent upon its mother. So if you've never had a pet before, there's a learning curve involved. Even if you've had a pet before, sometimes there's still a learning curve involved because no two creatures are typically alike. No two breeds are alike. Cats are not small dogs. So there are all kinds of differences, amongst the breeds and amongst the species. So you really do have to educate yourself. And that's what we're here for, as veterinarians, is to help educate the pet parent on the best ways to take care of your pet. Because the more knowledge you have, the more you can make the right decision for your pet, right?
Exactly.
So there is always power in information.
It is. And the first information that people need to understand, yes, the holidays is coming up and Sammy is home with me. We're going to use Sammy. Sammy's home with me, and I have all my friends and family coming over. We're so excited about doing Thanksgiving, and we're sitting at the dinner table, and they think Sammy is so cute, and they start giving Sammy some of our spread because we got a big old spread. We got everything from, of course, the turkey, of course, the ham, but then we got the gravy, stuffing, seafood. Oh my goodness, everything.
Mac
I
and
mean,
cheese,
oh,
potatoes.
oh, yeah. The mac and cheese. So I got roasted Brussels sprouts, yams. Oh, you know
Mhm.
what started. And but they think Sammy is cute. And they was like, why can't he eat anything? And they're not asking. They're not even asking, Andrea. They're just here, take this biscuit. They're not here, eat this. But that's not a good thing. And after on our last podcast, we talked about the Halloween candy.
Mhm.
So we just talked about chocolate. So I can just only imagine what about other things that's off the table? Because I hear it all the time. Do not give your pet food off the table. So
Mhm.
I want to share with the viewers that this is Thanksgiving is great. Yes, we're thankful, but the pets don't know anything about Thanksgiving. And
Mhm.
they shouldn't have what you have. Yes, you might be celebrating, even down to the alcohol. I've heard people say they get a dog beer. Why? Why you give the dog beer? Isn't beer expensive? I don't drink alcohol. But my thing is, why would I want to shit on my dog? What's the
Mhm.
other than them getting a kick out of it? But I don't even think that's good for the dog either. So can you, um, Dr. Dunnis, can you explain to them why Sammy should not have the spread? Sammy should have his own spread. As a pet parent, tell me what will be safe. And like I said, the last podcast you showed the difference between the size, the weight of the dog. Yes, the effects are different, but it's just certain things they should not have. Period. It doesn't matter about the height, the weight, or what breed. It's just certain things they should not have. Can you explain?
Mhm. Yeah, so, it's one of those situations where, yes, Sammy might be sitting there looking at you, with the cute little face and that little expression like, "Please, can I have a piece?" But, even though we love them like they're humans, um, their systems are a little bit different from ours, and so there are some things that they can't tolerate, and unfortunately, if you're not aware of that, then sometimes you can cause more problems for Sammy and ultimately your pocketbook if you do, give them some of these things. So let's just talk about, the meats, for example. Especially in our community, ham tends to be a big part of the Thanksgiving dinner. And, ham is known for being one of the fattier meats. That's not to say that beef and turkey and chicken don't have fat, because they do. But the thing that happens is that with fatty pieces of meat, a lot of pets can sometimes take a piece, and you might think it's nothing to give them a small piece of the skin with the fat or whatever,
Mhm.
but that concentrated amount of fat can sometimes cause the pancreas to get angry. And the pancreas is the gland that produces a lot of the enzymes that help you break down food.
It's like our
Dogs,
pancreas, right? Is it just like
exactly.
function the
Dogs,
same way?
people all have a pancreas.
Okay.
Um, and so whenever they get something that their body is not used to processing, it can cause the pancreas to get angry. And a lot of times the pancreas won't be able to rise to the occasion and produce the right amount of enzymes to digest that food. So what happens is, going back to the piece of fatty meat, and that's not to say that this will happen every time a dog gets a piece of fatty meat, but what can happen is the pancreas will get so angry to the point where the pet starts to feel uncomfortable. They're then vomiting, and then sometimes the vomiting turns into persistent vomiting, to where they're not able to keep any food down. And then next thing you know, they're starting to get dehydrated. And at that point, you've got a very sick puppy or a very sick adult dog that requires treatment.
Mhm.
Now, I've also had this happen, unfortunately, with one dog. It was a Malamute, bless his heart. He was a very sweet dog, but every time his owner cooked something and left it out, he would get into it and end up with
Wow.
pancreatitis and end up in the hospital for 2-3 days, IV fluid treatment and stuff,
No.
nausea. And one time, because this happens too now, fried turkey, has been a thing for the past couple of years, or if not decade, right?
Mhm.
Well, one year he actually got into a vat of the oil.
Mhm.
And because it had chunks of meat still in it and whatnot, I don't know how much he consumed, but when the owner got home, the barrel was turned over and most of it, was on the ground. But he also knew that something was wrong with his pet because the pet was laid out and you could tell where he had vomited 3-4 times around the house. So he had
Oh,
gotten into that cooking grease
oh,
and
the cooking
know,
grease.
into the cooking
Oh,
grease, the oil used to fry the meat. Yes,
no.
yes, yes, yes. And this time of year when people are cooking all times late at night and then you're
Right,
leaving it
yes.
out to cool off or whatever because you don't want it, don't want to put it up while it's still super hot. This is
Mhm.
the kind of stuff that tends to happen. And, you know, dogs are good. They have a good sense of smell,
Yes.
especially when it comes to food.
Uh-huh.
And it's not uncommon for them to go counter surfing
Mhm.
and grab a loaf of bread or pull a piece of meat off the counter. But when you're sitting at the table actively eating your food and there's all these different things laid out on the table, please do not just randomly pick a little bit of this and a little bit of that to give
Uh-huh.
to your pet because that's where the
People do it.
problems
That's
come
what they
in.
do. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. And some other things, that can happen, mac and cheese tends to be popular this time of year. Well,
Mhm.
cheese contains what? A lot of fat, right?
Yes. Yes.
And butter,
Mhm.
and salt sometimes. So all of these things, again, if the pet's not used to eating and digesting that kind of food, it can
Mhm.
cause that pancreas to get angry, and then next thing you know, you've got a sick pet.
Yep.
Onions, can cause problems, especially in cats. It can cause them to have a type of anemia. Some pets don't tolerate mushrooms that well. So it runs the whole gamut. And there are even certain fruits. On the last podcast, we talked a little bit about grapes and raisins
Yes.
and how that can sometimes cause kidney problems, even kidney failure, depending on the number that they eat. So again, your pet food was made specifically for pets for a reason.
That's right.
Unfortunately, the pet food industry is not super well regulated. Like the FDA, approves our food, and the USDA, is
Right.
responsible
Exactly.
for meat inspection and that kind of thing. But um, if you feel like you have to give your pet something homemade, the best thing to do is to do like simple vegetables. You can sometimes slice up little pieces of apple, little pieces of carrot, sweet potatoes. You can slice those up and bake them in the oven
Mhm.
until they have a little bit of a crunch. That sometimes will make a nice little treat for pets. But you really do need to be careful and not just pull any and everything off of the table to give to your pet as a treat. Now, keep in mind, we do also have those people that grew up, oh, well, all my pet ate when I was growing up because they stayed out in the
Right.
yard all the,
That's
all the
right.
time were the table scraps.
That's what the table scraps. That's right.
Yes, and that is true, but table scraps back then were not necessarily the same as they are at
Today.
this particular day and age
That's right.
because food has gotten more complicated. Food has
Mhm.
gotten more processed. There are a lot more things and
Yes.
ingredients in food that are not necessarily, really thought about. Back in the day when we were growing up, and I'm dating you and me here, Maria, but back in the day when we were growing up, food was much simpler,
Yes,
it was fresher.
Mhm.
You didn't have, like I said, as much processed uh, aspects to the food. A lot of times it didn't stay on the shelf that long because it wasn't preserved a certain way to stay
Exactly.
on the shelf for a long period of time. So, as we are advancing, they start telling you to be careful about what you're eating because of how food is these days. Well, the same thing with pets. We have to be very mindful of what we're putting into their little systems. And cats can be curious about what's on the table as well. I know some cats that like to hop on the counter when people are cooking and try to steal a little piece of this or a little piece of that. But again, same thing with the kitty cats. Try not to give them treats from the table as much as possible. Again, we just want everyone to have a safe holiday season and not spend your holiday season at urgent care or in the ER with your pet.
It's so funny that so much that you're saying, I'm learning. And this is the first Thanksgiving I had. Like I said, I had music last Thanksgiving, but he was still like a brand new puppy. So wherever you put him, he was good. But now he's just, he's running the house. You can't tell him, music is a different breed all by himself.
Right.
But but Score, he's a baby. He don't know his boundaries. So I had to put up dividers because the kitchen layout in the house is open. So we had to get the little dividers like you get for kids and block off the kitchen, because when I'm in the kitchen cooking, I don't want pets around me. I'm just that way. I want my kitchen to be nice and clean and it's pet free. Y'all stay out there. And it's so funny. They, like you say, they can sense, and they sense you're doing something, but that smell, that aroma, they be standing there just looking, their little eyes, and you're like, oh, I gotta stop.
Like, feed me.
Wash my hands. I feel like I should wash my hands because they gotta have a treat, but they can't have it when I'm cooking. And I'm very mindful of that because after not, I'm learning as I had my pets, but even the conversation that we had on the last podcast, I'm very mindful of the things that I give them, even though it seemed like it won't hurt. Even I give them popcorn, but it's popcorn without no salt. It's nothing. It's just bland popcorn, because I read how the herbs, the seasonings, and that's another thing too. I don't eat meat. So all my food contains a lot of herbs because, I'm not eating no bland food. So I can't give them what I'm eating because I like jalapeno peppers. They can't do that. They can't. They don't want that. And I use a lot of onions and garlic. And I know they have onions and garlic. So when I give them the popcorn, I pop for them, the popcorn for them, and then I season my popcorn. They can't have my seasoned popcorn. So this Thanksgiving, if you want your dogs and cats to have something, you need to keep those little vegetables or whatever, and just don't put anything on them, because that's the biggest thing. I think also the seasoning, and Dr. Dunnings, isn't that an issue too, where it's the seasonings that you put on your food? The chicken is good, but you got to remember chicken and butter. You got oil, like you said, the fat from the chicken, and season up. They don't need no Parmesan chicken. They don't need that. They need all that, and all that tomato sauce. So if you give it to them, they're gonna eat it because they're dogs. They can't. Right. It tastes good to them. It's different.
Right.
Someone let them know, because you're right. Little pockets, because I see it all the time, because I have a puppy in the house. So he's constantly getting to some paper or plastic stuff that I never thought was on the floor. He'll get it and it upsets his stomach. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And to the end that you're talking about, them getting into things, right after Thanksgiving, we also have Christmas coming up.
Yes.
And, there's all kinds of things to talk about as far as Christmas is concerned, because one, you got the Christmas decorations, which can cause some problems that we need to talk about. And then you're talking about, okay, toys or gifts that I can, give my pet at Christmas time. So let's just start with the decorations first. Now, again, I'm going to date myself a little bit, because back in the day, people used to throw a lot of that tinsel on the tree, right? So you have to be careful with cats. with the long strands of anything thread or string related, because cats will play with things like that, but they also play with their mouth. So they're grabbing with their claws, and they're also grabbing with their mouth. And what they're doing is they're getting the string in their mouth or the tinsel in their mouth, and sometimes they're swallowing it. And what
Ooh.
happens is it gets caught around the base of the tongue. This happens with sewing needles too sometimes,
Ooh.
and it gets down into the intestines. And a lot of times it ends up getting stuck. And then the intestines can't move food through the way that it's supposed to, and the intestines start to bunch up. And then next thing you know, you've got a blockage in the pet's intestinal tract. And it's all stemming from, a piece of string decoration or string toy, because you have the long little fly toys that they have for cats that have the little string coming off the end with the little dangly toy on the end.
Yes,
Or
yes.
if that ever breaks, make sure you find that other piece of it, because you don't want the pet to inadvertently bite off pieces of that string, and then next thing you know, they're sitting there, they're not eating, they're vomiting, then they start getting quiet. And after 3 days, it doesn't take a long period of time, but after 3 days, the intestines can
Wow.
be so raw and in such a bunched up state that now you're talking about a pet that potentially needs to have surgery. Okay.
Mm.
So there's that. And then you've got all the power cords that are out for plugging in the lights. Well, especially with young puppies, they see something up under the tree and it's lit up and it's shiny, and don't let it blink, because then, it's driving the curiosity even more. But the puppies in particular, because a lot of times they're teething
Mhm.
and
Oh, yes.
gums, yes, and their gums are
Mhm.
feeling tingly and whatnot. They want to gnaw on something. So
Right.
if they get down there below the tree and they're playing with the lights, and then they start gnawing on the lights, you want to make sure that they're not in a position that they can bite an electrical cord,
Yes.
because that can cause a burn in the mouth. It can cause heart problems. It's actually a form of cardiogenic shock that can happen.
Ooh.
And that's an emergency type situation. So, being very careful that your tree and your Christmas decorations are puppy and kitten proofed is important. Cats like to drink water. If you have a fresh Christmas tree, cats like to drink water out of the base of the Christmas tree. If you have a preservative that you have put in there to help
Oh,
keep the
yes, because
fresh,
you put stuff in the base of the tree so you can preserve the freshness
the
and
freshness of it.
and the life of the tree. And you're right,
Yeah.
you have to put it in. You just don't put water down at the base. Yeah, that's a
Exactly.
great
So
point.
you have to protect that base and cover that base so that that cat cannot get into, cat or dog, because dogs sometimes will drink it too,
Mhm.
cannot get into that preservative. So, all of those things become important. You have to be super vigilant, just like when you have a baby that's
Mhm. A
now in
new
that
baby.
toddling
Yes,
stage, and they're
that's
going around, and you want to make sure that they don't poke a metal piece into the
mhm,
socket.
that's
Yeah,
right.
that's kind of what you have to do to your house around Christmas time. You have to
Mhm.
puppy and kitten proof your house as far as the decorations are concerned. And then just briefly, talking about Christmas toys, um, that's a, a wide gamut of topics that could be discussed. But to put it kind of quickly in a nutshell, you want to make sure that you're getting something that is safe. Now, if your pet is a big chewer and you're getting something that makes a little squeaky noise, you
Mhm.
want to make sure that your pet doesn't destroy that toy down to the point where they can get that little squeaky ball out and swallow it, because typically those things are pretty small, like the size of a marble or
Yes.
smaller, and a
Uh,
lot of pets will
understand.
swallow that.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you've got a foreign body sitting in their stomach. What are you
Okay.
gonna do about that? You know? And then there's some, in some of the pet stores, you find these great big rawhide bones for the pet to chew on. If it's so hard that you can't see your thumb print in it when you press on it, then
Okay.
guess what? Your pet might crack a tooth gnawing on that bone. Okay. So you have to be very mindful of the chew toys that you're buying for your pet. Some of them sometimes are coated in different flavor additives. Well, if it was made in a country outside the US, sometimes you don't really know what those ingredients are. And, that happened a while back. Oh, I don't remember, maybe 10 years ago or something like that, where some products were causing illnesses in pets because they were treated with a chemical that caused a lot of the pets to get sick. And it was a product that was made outside of the US. I
Mhm.
don't remember which country for sure, so I don't want to say and be wrong, but um, it's just time to be super vigilant and making sure that you're getting a toy that your pet can safely handle. Again, if your pet likes to grab things in their jaw, big dogs like to grab things in their jaw and shake it around. Well, if it's
Right.
got a stuffing in it, like a stuffed animal, that stuffing, if it opens up and the stuffing comes out, guess what? Pets see that as another chew toy. So next thing you know, they're gnawing on
I'm a
it and they're
witness. I'm a
gnawing on it.
witness. I've been picking up stuff. Oh my goodness. Score got into music's bedding.
Oh, see? You know.
You're like, what is all this gray stuff? It's all over the floor, all in the bathroom. I was
Yeah,
like, where's it coming from?
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
For his bed,
So
all to
case
pieces.
in point, anything that they can tear apart, and if you know that they're going to tear it apart, that's fine. Just make sure that you give it to them and you pay attention to it every day, and when it's getting to that point that it's about to cause some problems, and
Right.
pull it up and toss it.
Yes.
Okay.
Amazing. Well, I'm telling you, this information for brand new parents like myself, and even not even brand new parents, some people you'd be surprised they don't even take that into consideration already, or it already happened, and they'd be like,
Hmm.
"Well," so this is why we decided to do "Oh Just Pets" because it is. We just say "Oh Just Pets" because people are like, "Oh, they're just a dog, they're just a cat." No, they can be in your pocketbook,
Hmm.
in your on your credit card statement. They can be your monthly payment if they're part of your extended family, and you don't take care of the responsibilities that you need to take care of because you don't fall in love with this beautiful furry animal.
Hmm.
So now you don't want to be paying money, unnecessary money. There's things that you can do around the house, like you see, to keep the house safe, just as you had a newborn child.
Hmm.
So we wanted you guys to have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We want you to have a wonderful Christmas, but just be mindful that your extended family needs some loving too, but it's not with
Hmm.
things that will hurt them. They just want to just be loved. They just want to be held. They
Exactly.
just want you to play with them. But all that
Exactly.
extra stuff, that's what you're doing. The extra dressing, the food at the table, that's what you're
Hmm.
doing. So you don't want that to be an issue. So, Dr. Dunnings, I want to say thank you so much. We have done another wonderful podcast, and I'm just enjoying doing this with you because I'm learning so much. And I just want to say, happy holidays to everyone. I am Aurelia Driver with Fresh Mink Pets products, and Dr.
Yeah.
Dunning.
I'm Dr. Andrea Dunnings. Again, wishing you guys a safe and happy holiday season for both you and your four-legged friends. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys at the next podcast next month.
That's right. And we're going to
Mhm.
bring you more information about you and your pets so you can take care of them properly. And if you got a question, please send us a comment. You can reach out to Fresh Meat Pets or ojustpets@gmail.com. Thank you so much. And happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everyone.